Okay, so you're leaving explicit matter behind. You're getting your screen access behaviors in check. You're getting them under control. You are no longer going to consume provocative images on social media. You're decreasing your gaming. You're trying to balance your screen time. But your relationship is still on the fritz because of your screen time behaviors, namely explicit matter and provocative images or exchanges. So now what? How do you rewire a relationship that's on the fritz? Well, I'm glad you're here and you're back for another episode with me, Dr. Trish Leigh of the podcast, because that's exactly what we are going to dive into today. The number one mistake you make when you're trying to heal your relationship and what you can do instead. Before we get to the mistake and the solution, let's break down, why does this relationship rupture occur? Why is there such damage to relationships when explicit matter is in the mix? Well, I'm here to tell you the use of explicit matter is, in fact, a relational problem, because the number one thing that the hijacker will convince you is the situation for you is that it's none of anybody else's business. What you do behind closed doors, and if you want to consume explicit matter, that's your business. Your partner shouldn't have any say in that. Nobody else should have any say in what you do with your time behind closed doors. It's private. I'm here to tell you it's not private. It's relational. And if you've heard me say this before, I think there's three really strong categories in the relational department, and then everything else can kind of fall into the independent but still should be shared department. Number one, finances. If you're in a relationship and you've committed to each other, it doesn't mean you need to share everything about your finances. There needs to be an agreement of how the financial relationship will fall out. Because trust me, my husband doesn't know everything about my financial situation, but he knows that is because that is the best thing for our relationship. That man knows how to spend. So the idea is we've had a conversation about this. This is what our financial relationship will look like, and we both agree on it. So now there's no arguing, there's no fighting about it. We're on the same page. Parenting. That was a tricky one for us for a long time. We have 5 children. So a lot of parenting has happened over the last 22 years. So we had to agree upon it because at first we were on different pages, but a lot of that different page aspect came out of our dysfunctional parenting that we learned from our parents. Mom and dad, I love you, but I learned to avoid conflict at all cost, and the hubs learned to yell at everybody. So you have me who's running off because he's yelling. That's not the best thing for our kids. So it took a lot of conversations privately when stuff was going down. I'd pull him over into my closet and I'd be like, babe, we got to get on the same page. There's no yelling, but we will approach this. And we have gotten to a really healthy place that there's no yelling, there's approach. And it's not perfect, but we're a work in progress. So we have finances, we have parenting. Third, sex, your sex life. There should be an expectation of what is acceptable within the relationship. There's really no right or wrong in this department because everybody's relationship is different. You know, there's ideals that I want people to strive for healthy sexuality. And a lot of it's based on what I know to be true from neuroscience. Most people want to be in a committed relationship with one other person. That is what works for most people. And in that committed relationship, it's imperative that your partner knows what is happening within your sexual relationship, which does include your private sex behaviors. Your partner should know about it. They don't have to know every time. You don't have to announce that you're going into the bathroom to masturbate, but what you could do is let your partner know that masturbation is part of your sex life. And I know right now you're thinking you're nuts, lady, because I'm never doing that. I would encourage you to at least be open and honest about what's happening in your relationship and share it with your partner. Why not? At the end of the day, I want to be on my deathbed thinking I left it all on the floor and I tried in my relationships. I exposed myself to vulnerabilities by sharing that with the hubs. Every time I share something, every time he shares it with me, we get closer and we figure out the kinks in our relationship, whether it be financial, whether it be parenting, or whether it be intimacy. The only way you figure it out is by sharing with each other. And conversely, if you're not comfortable with something your partner's doing, there's been times where I'm like, babe, I've got the sense this is going on. Can we talk about it? And of course, he's like, do we really have to? And then, of course, I'm like, yeah, we do. And I'm not great at it either, but conversation, getting on the same page about it. So if you have secret behaviors that you're withholding from your partner, there's choices. We're going to get to them in a second. Number two, I want to talk about, we're talking about right now, why does this rupture happen? First of all, it's because you're not on the same page and there's secret behaviors. So you've got to get all the secret behaviors. Either you stop doing them, that's choice one, or you share them with your partner. You let your partner know those things exist. If you're having affairs with other people, you tell your partner you're being with other people. Now your partner gets to choose if they want to be with you, even though you're being with other people. Because if you're withholding this and you're keeping it a secret, it's because you likely know if your partner found out, they would leave. And you need to give your partner that option because nobody wants to be in a relationship with a person they don't know. That is why the biggest rupture happens, is because they think they have one version of you. And then on one day, discovery day, they discover they're actually with a person they didn't know all of these things about. That's the vulnerability and the sharing. Once you share those things, then your partner gets to make the decision if they're going to be with you. And then you can have conversation around it. Things that are acceptable in the garden between the two of you. If you're consuming pornography, your partner should know that, because if your partner has expressed they don't feel comfortable with you consuming pornography and you're still doing it, now there is shame. There's secret shame that leads to a toxic triangle in your relationship. And we're going to go over it in just a second, even though I promised we wouldn't get to the choices. Well, there's other choices we're going to get to. So you share with your partner what their reality is. And now that's discovery day, but you get to move into the future with a real relationship, not a fake great one. It's fake great if you don't actually know each other. It's great for real when you do know each other and you choose each other every single day again, even knowing what is in the person's past or accepting them for what they have going currently in the present. That's even better. But there's choices. But the rupture that happens primarily is from the secrets, the shame that you feel, and then how it changes the interaction between you and your partner. So, what happens in the toxic triangle? In the toxic triangle, it's called Karpman's triangle. It's one of my favorite things to share with people when we're talking about their relationships. It basically is a triangle of 3 different roles that any given person, either you or your partner, or then your partner, then you again, can take during a discussion that's going south. That's why I want you to know this, because if you do tell your partner, I watch porn and I'm working on it, I'm trying to stop watching because I realize it's an addiction and I no longer want to be shackled to it, then if your partner throws shade at you, it likely is because they feel like they are a victim to your circumstance. And then you'll try to use defense mechanisms telling your partner, this isn't about you, this is about me. It has nothing to do with you. That's why I want you to know it does create a triangle. It's relational. It has everything to do with your relationship. It's just a defense mechanism when you try to convince yourself that it has nothing to do with your partner, especially if you know you're keeping it from your partner because your partner wouldn't like it. Relational. And it creates these dynamics in the toxic triangle. The first dynamic is the victim mode. And many times partners feel like the victim when they find out they're in a relationship with a lot of things going on they weren't aware of. Or they knew they had a hunch was going on, but they don't like, and they've asked you and you've denied it. Maybe once, maybe a million times. And then that enters in the lying, the manipulation, which is a whole nother level of a partner to have to deal with. And we can cross that bridge in a second. But the first dynamic that exists in the toxic triangle is victim mode. Your partner will likely feel that way at the outset of figuring out on discovery day they're in a relationship with a version of you they didn't know. Then that makes you the perpetrator. That's the next role. You're the person who hurt them. They're the victim because of you. You're the perpetrator. But I want you to know these aren't real. That's why we're breaking them down. I don't think you're the perpetrator. I'm sure you know I don't think that. So we'll cover that. But when they feel like the victim and they blame you, that makes you the perpetrator. That's going to give you even more shame. Then the last role is the rescuer. Your partner feels victimized by you, and unironically, they want to be rescued by you also. And then it'll flip. So then if your partner goes, "You're a total a-hole," now you're the victim. And your partner is now the perpetrator. They just perpetrated you by throwing shade and calling you a name. And if you own that, now you're the victim. And then if you go, "Oh, I don't want you to think that about me. That's terrible," you're waiting for your partner to rescue you. This triangle, this toxic triangle, can literally go on for weeks, years, decades. And I have been a victim, perpetrator, and rescuer within the triangle for such a long time because that is what I learned. But you know what I learned to do? Is not to own any of the roles. That's how you repair a ruptured relationship. So, first, I want you to know this toxic triangle is part of it: victim, perpetrator, rescuer. So, how do you break the toxic triangle? Well, it takes two to tango, my friend. And what that means is you can begin to stop this triangle from happening, but it really does take your partner to get on board with you. That's why I offer a partners program, Sanity After Betrayal, so that I can help partners see that porn use is an addiction. And most men do not want to keep going back once their relationship is at risk. Men are devastated when they can't stop and their partner's going to leave them. But it takes two to tango. It takes one person for a dysfunctional relationship. It takes two people for a very highly functional relationship. You can get the ball rolling, but you do need your partner to be on board with you. So remember that it takes two to tango for a healthy relationship. But how do you make it happen? You make it happen through not buying into the triangle. I'll tell you how. And by creating an interdependent relationship, by being two strong partners that are walking side by side next to each other in a healed fashion so that you can rock out your best life. I talk about it in my new book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. There's a whole chapter in here on whole section on how to rewire your relationship so that you can repair it. Now, the easiest way in the short run is to create healthy boundaries. So don't buy into any of the roles. If your partner feels victimized by you, you can say, "I'm sorry that we're in this situation." You're not owning porn addiction as the cause for it. You're owning the dynamics that have gone awry. So I'm sorry we're in this position. I'm going to work hard to be able to get us out of this position. The number one mistake people make is they don't break the triangle. The triangle goes on forever. And you stay victim, perpetrator, rescuer, rescuer, perpetrator, victim, back and forth, back and forth. So if the ball's thrown at you and you're called the perpetrator, you don't have to catch the ball. You can break that triangle by changing the thing that you say or you do. Don't do the defense mechanism. Don't justify it. Don't rationalize it. Don't deny it. Don't tell your partner that they're off their rocker. Own it. Own your own behaviors and then change them. And this way you can repair your relationship in a new way. And you can have a new relationship than ever before. The Hubs and I have been working on this probably for a decade now, and he joked the other day that my dysfunction was perfect for his dysfunction when we met. And that now that I'm trying to create such high levels of function, he's with me on it, trying to create the high levels of function in his own nervous system in life so that we can ride out the rest of our days in a highly functional relationship. Really cool. Again, we're not perfect, but we're trying. So, the choices you have. The choices you have is to communicate with your partner in a healthy way, not to assume anything, not to buy into that triangle junk, just to communicate what's on your heart and mind, and then double down, get into a program so you can get the help that you need. So if you're looking for help, please go over to drtrishleigh.com. We've updated the website. You can get into a consult with Jamie, my right-hand woman. You've probably seen her here on YouTube. You can get into the digital program so you can get started in an accessible, anonymous, and affordable way. Let's get you to the other side of this thing so you can repair that beautiful relationship of yours and ride off into the sunset. Okay, until next time, I hope this helps. And as always, control your brain or it'll control you.